Thank you. If I did it right, you now see my screen only, the slideshow. Right? Someone agrees? Someone confirms?
I said yes, indeed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so thank you, Koen. There's some delay on the line. It's the first and unfortunately the only one on lexicography. So as we meet, we'll have to develop the topic. So unfortunately, one person joined us today to know more about nitty-gritty stuff about Bantu lexicography. We won't fully reach there today. Actually, it's very different what I've planned from everything we've seen so far. It's not this micro analysis. I've chosen the bird's eye view, a long top-down line that I will follow, because I'm actually looking for a few needles in a haystack. I mean, it's actually impossible. You have the whole of Asia and we're looking for who is doing what on Bantu languages. Now, to understand where I come from, let's see how I can change this. Yes, a word on the methods. The method I want to introduce is called meta-metalexicography. No, this is not a typo. It's a bird's eye view that I want to take of the scientific research that itself is devoted to the compilation of dictionaries. So the third level is known as just lexicography, dictionary making. The second one is known as meta-lexicography, the theory of lexicography and the research about it. So I'm not even dealing with that. I'm dealing with the study of the studies, hence meta-lexicography. I started doing this type of research about a decade ago by first proving that yes, lexicography on a world scale is an independent discipline. I then wanted to study a number of journals, and I studied the two biggest journals in the field, Lexicos for Africa and the International Journal of Lexicography for Europe mainly. This was followed by an attempt to tackle conference proceedings, and I started with the European Association of Lexicography, 30 years worth of conference proceedings. Then I took it to the next step and I made a world corpus of everything lexicographic. So not dictionaries, it is studies about lexicography. 5,000 publications, turned into a corpus, 30 million words. As you can see, there are many ways to subdivide the material. I'm trying to look at it according to the regions of the world. So you have Asia and other regions. Then between 2014 and another 5 years, 2019, I continued with world lexicography. Now, just to give an idea of what you do when you look at everything at once, here is a term that I hoped would be nice to you, and it is. It's the terms electronic dictionary, online dictionary, and digital dictionary. And I wanted to know how they developed over the decades. As you can see, online dictionary suddenly took off really, and it has by now surpassed the word and the term, the concept electronic dictionary. Actually, in the article, we want to push digital dictionary rather than the other ones. Now, why is regions important? Well, I suspected it, and it is confirmed by looking at the corpus data that these terms are predominantly used by lexicographers in Asia. We all see the Chinese and the Japanese with their smartphones all the time. Well, also in the world of dictionary making, this is confirmed by the people who write about it. And even Africa leads Europe and the Americas, as you can see for these terms. Okay, so between 2014 and 2019, I really made another big effort to upgrade my corpora by adding much more publications. As you can see, I focused especially on Asia. I roughly had at that time about 10,000 papers and articles and over 1,000 for just Asia, 1,230. I haven't stopped in the past 3 years. I continue. It's a near daily thing I do. So now we reach lexicography in Asia. Just to make sure we all understand one another, Asia is for us this part of the world. It starts in Turkey, the Palestine territories, and it goes all the way to Japan. More and more is being said, so the size per year grows of material. What's in it? Different journals, Current Dictionary News, Lexicon, it's a journal from Japan in Tokyo, the Journal of Asialex, lots of books, we won't mention them all, manuals, and all the proceedings of the Asian Association of Lexicography. Here is another example, just looking at the Asian corpus now. Suddenly apps were hot, also in the world of lexicography, but as you can see, it quickly died out. Also important for Asia is the concept of a semi-bilingual dictionary. It was invented in Israel by the Kernmans. Basically, it's a monolingual dictionary of English in most cases, to which you add a few glosses in another language, say Turkish, Japanese. Well, it was hot in the 90s when it was conceived, but it kind of died out, although many hundreds of thousands of dictionaries are still being sold in Israel. Now we finally reach to Bantu lexicography in Asia. We start with the proceedings. The proceedings, hence, the papers where conferences were organized. The only missing one here is Turkey on this map, where conferences were organized so far by Asialex. About 900 papers in all. Here are the details. You also see where in Asia all these conferences have been held. Who are the main speakers? For those in the field, it will not surprise you. It's Tono and Yamada, Yukio and Shigeru. And if you go down the list, you'll see only one weird name. It is mine. Yes, I have attended quite a number of Asialex conferences. Actually, it's a Zipfin distribution. Just these few, 22, cover 20% of all the papers. Who talks about Bantu languages? Myself, Victor Mogela, Dani Prinsloo, David Joffe, James Mafela, Sponono Mahlangu, and Elsa Vitaljard. Only. So that's what I said. It's looking for a needle in the haystack, 900 papers, and only these talk about Bantu languages. Also, rather surprising, all apart from myself, and even then, come from South Africa. Now, why do we do all this? Because we know if you don't publish, you perish. But using that software to do the analysis doesn't work well. Actually, I built a Google Scholar profile for those Asialex proceedings. It's a bit a weird view that you get, because normally things like this rise throughout time, while here you have the first 10 years with about 30 hits per paper, and then the second 10 year where per year, I mean 60 hits per year. So what are the top papers? They are listed there, marked in another color, are those that deal with the Bantu language. So I just barely made the top 10. And it goes on the next 10. So Bantu features, just a little bit. Now we go to the journal of the same association. They have an official mouthpiece. It's a very young journal. They've only had 70 articles published so far. Again, I made a Google Scholar profile for that. And here we have a typical beautiful distribution since the start of the journal. But it is mainly driven by one single article by Adam Kilgariff. It's on dictionary software. Again, it shows the first 10, and we have one Bantu language that is dealt with by Dion Como. But you see, we're dealing with very low numbers. It's just 7 hits. Hits meaning it's been cited 7 times. So if all the official channels that deal with Asian lexicography only have those few that deal with Bantu, who's left? You Google, you search, you look into libraries like the one in the back of me and have another office with 120 meters of shelves with dictionaries. And there's one name that keeps popping up. It's, you guessed it, ILCAA itself. Hence, I wasn't surprised. And that is why I thought this topic is a good one. Actually, one of the first books I photocopied at the time. I didn't have money as a student. Just after my MA, is this one by John Kyoung-Won. It's a standard work on basic principles of Bantu lexicography, published by the Institute for the Study of Languages and Cultures of Asia and Africa, ILCAA. Now, if you go to today's website of ILCAA, they have a number of journals and other publications. So I wondered, where does Bantu feature? Because they deal with Asia and Africa, and with basically all Asia and Africa studies. The first journal I checked is the Journal of Asian and African Studies in general. 101 volumes since '68 to today, only one, and it's only a review on a Bantu language. Then I went to the Asian and African Languages and Linguistics Journal. 15 volumes since 2006. Again, very little, just 2, and both of them by the same author, Kaji, and both on Nyoro. Unfortunately, both in Japanese, but this shouldn't be a problem these days. You scan OCR, dub it in Google Translate, and you can read the Japanese, which is something we do at BantUGent. Then I went to a book collection, Asian and African Lexicon Series, where the bulk is to be found. There are 63 volumes. They claim they deal with basic word lists up to extensive dictionaries. And indeed, I found 17 lexica in that series. By the way, that is ordered by Guthrie code. So there are 2 zones that are dealt with, the zone around Swahili, and then the zone that should interest Mina, Deo, and a few others here present today. So the Bantu Vocabulary Series, it is not mentioned on the website, but I know it exists. And here are the first 10 volumes of that series with the languages near the right. Then also done by ILCAA, just like basically this PhD that was turned into a book. Other works that deal with lexicography or the wider field of lexicography, like the one shown here. So, who else is there then in Asia dealing with anything Bantu lexicography? Is there actually somewhere else? Well, if you search various databases, you will indeed find a few others. I've mentioned one, also from Tokyo. I think Kurasa is a journal. One of you may confirm or disconfirm. And then, of course, I know that people like myself do publish in Asian journals. I've mentioned one of myself that deals with Swahili. And this is in a Malaysian journal. But these are not lexicographic journals. So this is really, really looking for that famous needle in the haystack. Now, if you look at the dictionaries themselves, the contents, so what characterizes them, or what makes them different from, say, the dictionaries that we know in the West? I happen to have one here. It's a Japanese Swahili dictionary. And like even all Japanese dictionaries, when you open them on any random page, they all look very similar, very structured, beautifully laid out. And in multiple, well, Japanese itself is already complex with kanji and katakana, hiragana, and the Roman script in between. So when they mix it with different languages, it becomes nearly a painting. That's the first thing we see. And we also see it in the dictionaries they produce. So here is a list of things that I've noticed. Firstly, in most cases, they're onomasiological. In other words, they depart from the concept. While when we think about a dictionary, it must be an A to Z list. So in most dictionaries produced, I'll now say in Japan, on Bantu languages, the approach is from a field, say the homestead, and everything that deals with the homestead. Then to search material effectively in such a dictionary, of course, there are indexes, different lists put in alphabetical order with cross-references to the data. There are no monolingual dictionaries, hardly any bilingual ones. This is an exception. Most are even multilingual. Because if it says it's a dictionary of, say, Swahili with another language, there is always Japanese. So there's already a third language in it. It's not mentioned in the titles. Japanese is always there. It's very strange. We would never do that in Europe, not mentioning one of the languages in a title of a dictionary. So one always crosses languages in multiple scripts, like I said. The layout, as you've seen, is very open. There's a lot of white space. They don't use abbreviations, unlike Western dictionaries, who are very, very compact. You can immediately see, and it's a result of the way those dictionaries were made, they are informant-based. They really went into the field with, let's say, templates that they went through with speakers of the language, and they were filled in. As a result, they give the impression that they were quickly made. Now, if you go down to the microstructure of those dictionaries, so that is the nitty-gritty, what is written in an article under the lemma, then you hardly see example sentences. These days, there is not a single dictionary for English worth its money that would dare produce a dictionary without example sentences. And when we say example sentences, we of course mean corpus-driven examples, meaning they've really been taken from the corpus. Why is this so important in modern lexicography? Because words don't have meanings. We fool you. We lexicographers, we present words and tell you what they mean, but this is a chimera. It's an invention. Words have meaning potentials, and these potentials are only triggered by the context. So you must see lots and lots of corpus lines, evidence, to know what a word means in certain contexts. And it's those contexts, the 1, 2, 3, or the ABCs that you see listed in a dictionary, that give the illusion that these are the senses of a word. Then if you go further, then you have the idiomatic expressions, idiomatic usage. Again, software is perfect to find and pinpoint the recurrent idiomatic expressions. So here is a random example. It's one of the dictionaries, of course, produced by ILCAA. It's not even a Bantu language as a starting point, but there is Swahili in it, and unmentioned, there is also Japanese, and unmentioned, there is also English. Again, very wide open space, nicely illustrated, wonderful things to basically turn through. Now, why do I want to say all that? Well, we are trying to find connections. So I'm the only lexicographer. Well, we are more. We have Nabiri, we have Kawalia, who also are lexicographers. How can we now try to cooperate? As I've unfortunately had to come to conclude, who's working in Asia on Bantu languages? It is me together with a few colleagues in South Africa. I thought it was the case. It is corroborated. Who's working on the same topic, Bantu languages in Asia? It is ILCAA. So now that we have this project, we need to find a way to connect. But there's a problem. The problem is most of these dictionaries were made by former colleagues. The current generation, as far as I understand, does not work on lexicography. But the data is there, some of it online. So what could we do? Well, we could try to make it really useful, future-proof, in the sense that they can really be searched. So proper digitization of the existing products, and there are many dozens, as I've shown, seems a good thing to do. We have done this. We have many dictionaries here that we already have digitized, like the Gwere one that Mina Nabiri used for her PhD. It's a neighboring language from Lusoga. But we just OCR'd it. Sorry, we first photocopied it and then OCR'd it. That means we recognized the text, but fully automatically. It works well, but it would be better to try to retrieve the original data, if that is not possible, to use good quality OCR software to get good quality readable text. And in the process, and we've done it even for much harder dictionaries, we've done it for manuscripts here at BantUGent, to parse the data, meaning that you, as you do the work, you put each of the different pieces of text, basically what you see in those beautiful dictionaries, nicely laid out, each in their proper field in a proper dictionary writing system. So the lemma goes into field lemma. The translation in one language goes to the proper slot for that language, a translation in another language and the proper slot for that language. If there is an example linked to that, you link it and so forth and so forth. And then why not? And then it links to what everyone else is doing, given modern dictionaries are using and built based on corpora. Is the last slide, Koen. I would suggest to try to build a number of corpora in Tokyo, apart from those we built and have at BantUGent. And to do all this, but that's for later, like I said, you will need good OCR software. We used to use OmniPage. These days, we are very happy with ABI Fine Reader because it does especially Chinese, Japanese, and also Korean, Arabic, and so forth. You will need query tools like Wordsmith to query your corpora, and of course a good dictionary writing system we like SwanLX or TLEX. That is it. You can fire your questions now.
Thank you, Gilles-Maurice, for this insightful overview and history and future discussion of possible future collaborations. Are there any questions, comments? People from ILCAA who want to say that they are almost finished with a new dictionary, or I don't know. Daisuke, yeah? Or no, Stefan had
this is what this is what I would like to listen to. So thank you very much for the information. Actually it was, exciting. I mean, so please let me know what is the starting point. I mean, so what we have to do is to digitalize the data material, right?
Well, I would suggest before you do the hard work, try to find the old computers, because it's mostly old computers or the old floppy disks and so forth, which the dictionaries that you have produced were made. There's nothing better than starting from the electronic data. Then there's still work involved to get it into a proper dictionary writing system. But if you can find electronic data, even if it's on a magnetic tape, that is. If indeed everything is lost from your colleagues of the past, I know that the works themselves still exist. So these need to be scanned properly. That we do this not on a scanner, a manual scanner next to the computer. We do this on a photocopy machine these days. You scan at 400 dpi or higher, so good quality scans, better than what is available now on your website. Then the next step is to basically recognize the characters with OCR, optical character recognition software. And for Japanese, I've done some tests in preparation of today. ABI Fine Reader is a wonderful tool. It really recognizes Japanese. How do I know? Because I don't read nor speak Japanese. I put the result in Google and I see if Google Translate can make sense of it, and I get perfect text back. So that also proves that the Google Translate machine is very powerful, but also that the result, the recognized text is very good. Next step, because that is searchable, you can turn that into PDF. We do that here. We search. We have thousands of works that all of us contribute to, and we put it on a share. It includes dictionaries. We search dictionaries in that way. But if you want to move to the next level, say make an online version, a search version of your dictionary, it must be parsed. So it must be put into a dictionary writing system. If the OCR was done well, then it can even be done automatically by programmers. Nice structure. Oh, this is bold, this is italics, this is semicolon. Normally after semicolon, this follows. They write a bit of code, and yep, they transpose that to a writing system, dictionary writing software. So, but of course, you could say, the dictionaries exist in libraries. That's good enough for us. But if you want to provide a service to, well, the whole community, I'll give you something that, well, it's recorded, but it doesn't matter too much. To give you an idea, my Swahili dictionary that is online, we also sell it for people to use on their machines. I was very surprised yesterday when I looked at how many people have it running on their machine. 1,500 people have a copy of that Swahili dictionary locally, even though the same data is online and you don't need any logins or anything. So there's okay, it is Swahili, but there is a need for Bantu language dictionaries. Not all, but well, you have a lot for Swahili. So yes, it will be a service to the community.
Thank you. And I'm not so sure whether I can understand, I do understand correctly, but is there any process that after digitalizing the data and after digitalizing the data, I need to import the data into the dictionary making program, right? Is there
it seems as if within the collaboration will need some more hands-on workshop or collaboration to work on these more technical aspects. But if I may, I would prefer to let the other people who
go on. Yeah, that's fine.
Give the floor. Stefan, is this still an old hand, or you have a new question?
Sorry, it's an old hand. Sorry.
Okay, no
I forgot to remove it.
Alena, then this is a new hand because I saw it popping up.
Thank you, Gilles-Maurice, for a very informative presentation. I'm kind of curious to hear what your standing is on the copyright issues with this retro-digitalized dictionaries, and like what do you know about whether they can be published online and when? And maybe Daisuke knows more about those. I'd love to hear when they really will become available and like how legitimate is actually what we are discussing in terms of copyright.
Well, it's a very simple thing. Adam Kilgariff, the one who published more than anyone else in the stats that I showed you, always said, if Google can do it, we can do it. Who are we? We are only a few thousand in the world working in this field. And he was right. He built a sketch engine and just crawls the internet and takes what Google already has and builds Corpora with that. Of course, you have to be careful with published material. If I scan this, it's from the well, it's not old enough, but let me have a quick look. It's from the 1970s. That makes it 50 years old. In Europe, it's not old enough. I am not allowed to scan it and put it online. The rule is for America at least 72 years. We're all waiting for the US census of 1950 to come out next year as a result. Data is withheld 72 years, it comes online. But here, I know it may not refer to your question directly, but here, within this collaborative project, they own the data. ILCAA produced the data. So if they now repurpose it and put it online, of course they can do it. Then what we do at UGent, we digitize very, very old 17th, 18th century material. Of course, copyright has lapsed. So if we want to put it online in any way we want, it is possible. But yes, you have to be careful with dictionaries that are recent and not yours. But no one can stop you from digitizing it for your own purposes. And that's what we do. We do it for BantUGent research purposes.
I was specifically asking about ILCAA, so yes, glad to hear that there is no issue there.
Thank you. I see a hand raised, Professor Kamiya. or if I don't know whether that is the full name. I see.
Hi. Hello. Nice to meeting you all. I'm no more a linguist. I'm working as administration in our university in Kyoto. But I was working at the field of Bantu research. I did my field work at South Africa, the Bachelor language, which is I made a research, and that is one kind of dialect of Zulu. Okay. Anyway, let me introduce myself as a user of TLX, which is I think only one of two users. The other is Shinagawa Sensei, and I was a kind of evangelist of a TLX computer program since decades, one decade before. I introduced I think the Mr. Schryver, you are the one of the developer of the TLX program, right?
Let's say that I funded it. It was a startup over a decade ago, so I funded it.
Okay.
And then I co-developed it indeed and conceptualized it together with David Joffe.
Joffe, yes, David, right? Yes. And I follow his updating video footage, update the information of the TLX video, YouTube. So I'm still using that, which I once compiled one very small, not dictionary, just a lexicography, is that? About the language which I once made a research. So this is not a question. This is just introducing myself to all of you. That here we are using your program, and I'm trying to utilize that. Unfortunately, it's not widely used here in Japan in Bantu Study People Society, but I'm still working on that.
So Daisuke, for training, we won't even have to fly over. We have
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because
some words, yeah. And actually, so Dr. Kamiya is one who told me the existence of the TLX, and he knows very well about the program as well. So he definitely will help us to build the digital dictionary here in ILCAA, I think. Yeah. So it's very, very happy to to introduce him here. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to have found a Swanelex apostle in Japan. He's evangelizing, spreading the word. I see there is one more question from Kyoung-Won. If I pronounce this right, probably not, but
yep. Yeah, I'm very curious about the macro structure, especially the concept of thesaurus. I'm very interested in from a few months ago, and so I have witnessed some of some of word lists made for in preparation for field work were containing some thesaurus-like structure, like grouping the words by the meanings, like plant names, animal names. But in the field of lexicography, I'm yet to see many thesaurus made for Bantu languages. So,
well, what will be my answer? You go and visit ILCAA and look at any dictionary. I think it's back home. Just look at this random screen. Nothing is alphabetical. M, S, M again, P. So the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, made a dictionary for his own language. Deo Kabala will correct me, I think it's Runyankore. And he did this, but he did not include an index. So when Deo Kabaya and I wrote an article, we actually criticized the president and said it's useless. You cannot find anything unless you already know what you're looking for. You cannot look up anything. Okay, these days we say search. We don't look up anymore because everything is digital. So when you do it like this, and ILCAA's products are, well, 90% of their dictionaries are like this, you must include one, or even in this case, multiple indexes. You must include a Japanese index, you must include an English index, you must include a Swahili index in this case, an Iraq index. I don't know how to pronounce, I used to click, I'm not sure. So these are very complex dictionaries indeed, with multiple search routes, multiple macro structures, yes. But they exist. Well, they are not.
Thank you.
Yeah, I must be. Yeah, I must be careless about it. Yeah.
I saw Nobuko also had a question, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it's not a question, but about this Bantu vocabulary list. You showed the old, yes, that was a big series of Bantu lexical vocabulary series or something like that. But what you showed is old one. So, but the ILCAA restarted this series in 2006 or something like that. So what you showed is like from the last century, but we started this century. So yeah, including me. So new data are already digitalized.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And
so it's already digitalized. For example, like Matengo vocabulary list is in my computer. So, you know, the first stage is already done, at least from this century. Yeah.
And then I have a naughty question. In which software was it made? How was it created?
Yeah, I just typed in the in Excel file. So.
Okay, but Excel is structured. That is good. Yeah.
In Excel, yeah.
Very good. What is not good is to use a word processor and to manually try to bold and italic semicolons because it always goes wrong.
I think at least the word list, Bantu vocabulary list, which published in this century, are in Excel, I think.
Yeah, that will.
Are they published? Nobuko, you say published, but are they published or made? They're
published
as a book.
As a book, yeah. Shall I show you?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's another good thing, of course, as a result of this.
Like you showed this green series, right?
Yes, yes.
But this is from last century.
Yes.
And this green with red line, this is newly published. And Kun, you should have it, I think.
Yeah, I think right? I should, but
so
I often receive copies, but like from Motengea's work, but this is work.
So I think these are in all data are in Excel file, I think. So maybe it's easier than you think. And at least it has alphabetical index.
Yeah. No, but we have the old ones where we have more work, and the new versions where there's less work. And but you see, and that's why it's great to have this project. We have not yet received them here in Ghent, Belgium. Well, I just speak for myself, not for Koen, because Koen knows everything. But ILCAA always send to, I think, Tervurium, maybe not to Ghent. Maybe you could ask put the name on the list.
We should, yes.
Yeah, you can ask Daisuke.
Okay. Thank you, Nobuko, for this clarification. I don't know if there are no more specific questions. I think we can close the public meeting of this second kickoff meeting, and thank everyone who was with us. Alena, Ferdinand, I see, Stefan.
Yes, I'm there indeed.
Yeah, so